Mankind, moments from now, inside this boiler room, you're being forced to take on Santa Claus.
Well, if you believe in Santa Claus, then believe this, my friend.
The $1 million man is both Santa!
If he's not the real Santa Claus, give me a hell no.
I celebrate Hanukkah. Why am I doing this?
It's Christmas.
Santa is wrestling Kurt Angle and Armageddon.
St. Nicholas is a saint.
Do it for Santa, man. Santa? Do it for Santa.
Do it for Santa.
Do it for Santa.
It's the most restful time of the year.
This is the Christmas preacher.
Welcome to the McGuire on Wrestling Christmas Special, the Holiday Hullabaloo. Here's Mike McGuire.
Oh, man. Thank you for being here. We got a good one for you this week and next. If you're listening on the radio or on a podcast, thank you for being here for the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2. Yeah, it's the second one, and you get 2 times as many weeks now. All new content with some great guests that you may have seen teased in our social media on the Team MOW McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page, or you may have heard about from other places. Thank you to websites that are posting stories about things coming out of this, because there's going to be some things coming out of this. We got some great guests, we got some great people with some great insight, and it's just a ton of fun, a great way to kill some time over this weird stretch of holidays, and really weird here in North America this year, because you know, Christmas, like being in the middle of the week, that puts New Year's in the middle of the week. So some people are having to like just work Boxing Day and Friday, or some people are just having to work on the 27th and then the 30th. And that's what I got to do. I got to work like the 30th and the 31st and then off again and then back again on the Thursday, Friday, but then off the whole next week. So yeah, it's crazy. Nevertheless, that's why we're doing this Holiday Hullabaloo 2 as well, to give you some fun wrestling content and also just fill that time. If you've made it through like the post-wrestling 7-hour Christmas special and you're like, you know what, I just need more, we welcome you over here. If you're through listening to all the omnibuses from some of your other favorite podcasts, that's why we're here. And that's why we're here again with some of the most fun guests and a few new faces as well. Plus this year, I didn't want to hog all the fun to myself. So what we did was, for a couple of our guests, we surprised other members of the Team MOW podcast team with them coming on, because, you know, I've managed to foster some relationships with some of these wrestlers and get to know some of them and all these other personalities. But these other guys, they just do these shows for the love of the game. And so it's like, I wanted to share the joy, and I also wanted to share the excitement with you. So we're going to do that with our first guest right now. Last year, he came on for a bit of a snippet. This year, he's here for a full conversation, and what a conversation. I've been touting for years that I wish you could get to know the side of this guy that I've gotten to see. And you're going to get to do that a little bit now. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest in the Holiday Hullabaloo 2024, he is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Let's take you to the Hitman. You know, if you had asked 12, 13-year-old Mike McGuire back in the day if he'd be checking in on the holidays with Bret Hart, he probably would have thought you were crazy. And I still might think that I am crazy. But ladies and gentlemen, joining us for the second Holiday Hullabaloo in a row, I think this is now a tradition. Bret the Hitman Hart, how are you, sir?
I'm very good. Having a good holiday season.
Thanks a lot for coming on again this year. We've seen each other a bit through the year here, obviously with Dungeon Wrestling shows. And how are you? How has the year been when you look back at 2024 and just things that have gone on in your world, maybe, you know, in and out of wrestling?
It's been a really good year for me. You know, I had a lot of fun, did a lot of fun things, and with some interesting play. I got to go to Australia this year, which was really nice, because I've been there quite a few times, not quite a few times, but 2 or 3 times. And it's a beautiful place, and it was great to go back there with my wife. And, you know, but aside from that, it's been just little trips and places. You know, I was in Asheville, North Carolina, that just, you know, got hit a few months ago with that horrible landslide or whatever it was. Flood.
Hurricane, yeah.
But anyway, I was there before that, and it was just beautiful weather, beautiful place, beautiful people. It was such a great experience that, when all that stuff happened after, it's like, I want to make a point of going back there all the time to help, like Maui, help rebuild it and get it back to where it was. So I those are kind of things that kind of come to mind. But for me, it's been a really good year. I've had a great year with my grandkids and stuff like that, where they're all starting to play football and hockey and doing really well and really loving sports. And, for a granddad, I guess that's pretty special. And everything in my life is sort of, everything's a happy place. So everything's good.
It's funny. It's something I wanted to bring up because at the last show we were at together, and I've seen this a few times with you, and I don't mean to shatter the mystique of the big, tough Bret the Hitman Hart here, but there's something about you. As soon as one of your grandkids, one of the older ones, or especially one of the newer ones comes up, you just shut down. You melt. You turn into again, I don't want to tarnish the luster of the big, tough Bret the Hitman Hart here, but there's something that takes you over when your grandkids show up, eh?
Well, they're all different, and they're all special, and they're all pretty good kids. Like, I'm pretty proud of all my. It's nice to see them all so normal. It's not easy to be normal and just be so happy and sort of people pushing you in different directions. And I think the environment that all my kids are good parents to my grandkids, and they're all doing good things with their lives and playing sports and doing good in school. And as a grandparent, it's like that's a real something to be really proud of.
You've always been a guy who has spoke very fondly and very proudly of your family, and of course, this is often a special time of year when it comes to family. Sometimes this can be a challenging time of year for people too, right? Like, I mean, there's sometimes where
I know a lot of people get down at Christmas time because for a lot of reasons. It just can be a down time, and sometimes it's dark and cold all the time, and it's just something that can bring bad moods or sad moods out of people. And I'm not one of those kind of guys. I'm always pretty upbeat and happy at Christmas time. But for a long time, at least most of my wrestling career, I was gone. Even for Stampede Wrestling, I was gone Christmas Day. Christmas Day was never a holiday working Stampede Wrestling. And same at WWE with Christmas and Easter, Halloween, all those special days that are for your kids. I missed all those and was often entertaining some kids somewhere else in the world while my kids at home were all kind of wondering where I was all the time. So it's when you do get home for the holidays now as a grandparent and as an older man, it's really important. And so all those things are a blessing for me. Like, I'm really happy with all that stuff. Like, I'm happy to fill those shoes, and I do my best to be around all my grandkids as much as they'll bear. And at the same time, admire how they're all turning out.
Well, and they have no idea who Grampy was or is. And
I know, I think, it's funny you say that, because I was with two of my grandkids with my daughter Jade in New York.
Yeah.
She's kind of just gotten through breast cancer this year, which is another reason why it's a celebratory year for us as a family. But anyway, we all went to New York and was with my grandkids, and even my wife, who's put up with a lot of fans and things like for since I'd known her.
Guilty.
But they could not get over how much different it is in New York. Everybody knows me in New York, and everyone loved me in New York because I was that hero on TV every Saturday in New York City and in the East Coast in particular. But New York was always the hotbed and the most biggest Bret Hart city of them all. No one loved me more than anywhere in the world. Germany, Canada, Calgary, Toronto, whatever. New York was the biggest. And it was for my kids to see how much love and respect I still have in New York just walking around, I think blew my grandkids away, where they have a different respect for me now, because from that 5-6 day 1 week trip or whatever we had in New York, it was mind blowing for my kids to see how famous I was, and that made me, at least they sort of appreciate me a little, more in a different way. I think it really opened up to who I was as a wrestler.
It's funny, and I'm not going to talk too much about it out of turn, but you mentioned your daughter Jade. Her and her husband Steve have become really good friends of mine through the last couple of years here as well, and that was a big deal. That I mean, so happy to see that she's coming through on the other side, and the whole family is, and as a parent, I'm sure you felt the same way, right? Like what a miracle to have that come out as good as it has,
Yeah, you never sleep well or until you're all clear, and it's like I said, it was a long year, but I think we're finally in the clear and moving on from it now. So it's time to celebrate and rejoice.
Well, you know what? I do want to. I promised you we'd talk 10 to 20% about wrestling at the most here, but to do that, this is happening, but he doesn't. One of our co-hosts here on the show, Joe Aguinaldo out in Ontario. We've talked numerous times about how you and I get to hang out and talk about wrestling at shows and stuff like that. And, he's a really good friend of mine. And I wouldn't ask you to do this for a lot of people, but we're going to surprise him right now. Joe Aguinaldo has been a lifelong wrestling fan. He goes back to like the old days. He was a big AWA, NWA follower back in the day too. So he knows all the history and everything. So we're going to bring Joe on now, and he doesn't know you're going to be here. So this will be fun.
All right. I'll follow your lead.
Check one.
Okay. You can hear me?
Yeah, hang on. Let me just turn up my volume.
Okay.
Because I'm old and deaf.
All right. Okay. Joining us now for the holiday hullabaloo from his home in Mississauga, Ontario. He's one of my best friends and also one of the best wrestling fans I've known throughout the years. Joe Aguinaldo, how are you, buddy?
Yay! Sorry, I was just getting ready for tomorrow.
Oh yeah, well that's in the past now because this is airing over the holidays. But Joe, I bring you in with a bit of a false pretense here. You're not here just to talk to me. You and I have had conversations about wrestling for years and what a fan you are, especially the old school. And one name in particular that comes up in conversation, you're like, man, I'm not you. Like I don't get to hang out and talk to these people all the time. So if you wouldn't mind, sir, just turning your camera back on. Joe, I'd like to finally introduce you, one friend to another. Joe, I want you to say hi to Bret the Hitman Hart.
Bret, oh my God, hi. I am stunned. I am. It's an honor to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Joe. Hope you're getting ready for a good Christmas.
Working on it. I'm very late to starting my Christmas shopping, so the next few weeks we'll be doing that.
Well, join the club.
Well, wait a minute. This time last year, Bret, you were the gift man. Can you give Joe any tips maybe on what he can do to get those gifts taken care of? Or maybe you guys will be sharing shopping lists after this.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of tips this year. It's every man for himself.
All right. Well, Joe, I mean, I know I caught you off guard on this, but I did let Bret know a little bit about your history as a wrestling fan. I mean, you've been watching forever. You know all the great old names and all the old matches. And every time I talk about conversations with Bret, you're always like, I don't get to talk to Bret Hart like you do. So this is your chance. Don't nerd out too much, but by all means, I want to give you guys a little bit of time here. So have at her.
No, Bret, I just to give you a little bit of history, like I've been watching wrestling since I want to say like late 70s. And, I still remember as a kid growing up watching the Calgary Stampede stuff with, yourself, Dynamite, back with, Big Daddy Ritter and Jake the Snake Roberts and the Muck and Sing and the Karachi Express, Jerry Morrow, all those guys. And man, I cannot tell you like some of the good memories that I had watching the Calgary Stampede territory, along with your WWE run, of course, like that goes without saying. But I mean, watching you, your brother, Owen, watching Bruce, even like with Brian Pillman, like, man, like it is an honor to be talking to you right now.
Well, go ahead and explore whatever time period you want with me. We can.
Here you go, Joe.
You know what? I have to ask. I've read a lot of this stuff, Tell me about Dynamite Kid.
As far as his work goes, he was the best, one of the greatest workers of all time. And he's just one of those kind of guys that was so strong, so athletic, so coordinated. He was a really agile and coordinated athletic guy, and was a great worker when he wanted to be. And I can remember, as an example, even in WWF, but he would body slam me, and then he would climb up to the top rope and jump off of the knee drop and do a knee drop from the top rope right on your face. And he always had the knee pad, but I mean, it would always hit you right on the face, but it would never, ever hurt you.
Wow.
It always looked so good. You could feel the whole pad pressed against your face and then him roll over. That's why his knees were so bad, unfortunately. But he really was one of those kind of guys that really did everything to the perfection. He was so good when he was in his prime anyway. And, I learned a lot from him, like sharpening. It was like two knives. We kind of sharpened each other up over the years. I think I made him a better wrestler, teaching him sort of American style wrestling, which is Canadian style. And from what he was doing in Britain and Germany and stuff was very English style. And was when you first see Dynamite when he first came into Calgary, he was not like everyone else. And that kind of made him special, but also limited him in some ways. And he himself noticed that the more he started to borrow from the American wrestlers or Canadian guys, some of the stuff that they didn't do in England necessarily, started sort of borrowing, mixing the two of them together. He found that right medium and especially when he turned heel, became a really good worker, like a great worker that could do anything, and was really, really, when I think about Dynamite in Calgary, it was just the right place at the right time for him, because he picked up both styles and really started to learn how to work as a heel. Became to me, a great wrestler, as good as anybody I can think of. And, it was just that special, if he'd been anywhere else, I don't think it would have been the same for him. Calgary was just the perfect, fertile kind of fan base and wrestling kind of style that would really enhance his work. And Dynamite was one of the safest guys in the world when he liked you. And he was that was the thing about Dynamite. I consider him one of the greatest professionals. But at the same time, I really do judge him harshly for some of his bad deeds, like unprofessionalism. Like, like I was saying about the knee drop. If he liked you, it was perfect. And you never hurt anybody. And it was always a miracle that he could do something like that, and jump so high and so hot, to drive that knee right into it looked like it killed you when he did it. And all I ever did was sell the heck out of it and wonder how he didn't kill me. At the same time, if he didn't like you, he'd knock all your teeth out, break your nose, and then tell you after that it was an accident. You go in the ring, you have to trust each other and trust, that both of you are going to protect each other, at all costs. But he was, in a lot of ways, was one of the greatest ever.
Bret, I know we only got a little more time with you here, but Joe, I want to give you one more shot here. I mean, I'm sure that this has hit you with a litany of questions you'd like to ask Bret, but is there anything else you'd like to cap this off with?
You know what? I do have one more question about a specific wrestler who I know you've talked about in the past, Archie the Stomper. What has he meant to you?
It was that same thing. I remember Pat Patterson one time talking to me about the greatest workers in the business. And I said, one of the guys I actually don't know of anybody I could say was better, but Archie the Stomper in his prime was unbelievable. Another guy would be Abdullah the Butcher.
Right.
But Archie the Stomper looked the part and could work the part. He was actually a really good worker, and he was an unbelievable talker, like best promo. I put him up there past Steve Austin, like best promo in the business.
Wow.
Better than anybody I've ever seen. Even today, I've never seen anybody cut a promo like Archie the Stomper did back in the 60s when he was in his prime. Like often gave promos where I had goosebumps up my back, my neck, and stuff, and I was legitimately, honestly fearful that he might come up to the house and say that he used to talk about. He was going to tear down Hart House brick by brick and pile drive my mom on the interstate. I remember and I wrote about it in my book, but it's like, I used to always wonder what the heck is an interstate. I didn't know what an interstate was. But it's like his promos in his prime, even as a baby face or a heel or whatever, he was so scary and so real. And, the biggest mistake about him was that he wrestled in the United States. His whole career was as the Mongolian Stomper, and he didn't talk. He always had a manager talking for him, and he just looked. He didn't even look Mongolian. But anyway, he did that, and it never. I remember guys never rated him. Never thought he was any good.
I remember you telling me once that Pat Patterson even said Archie the Stomper. He can't talk.
Yeah, he told me, like, when I told him that I thought he was one of the best. He goes, nah, he wouldn't even include him. Like, no, Archie the Stomper's not in there. He was okay, but and I'm like, no, you never saw him the way I did.
They got some punks around here, some Hart kids, especially Bret Hart, going around. I hear about him. He goes to the States once in a while. He goes to Japan, trying to build himself a reputation. Well, I want to tell you something, Bret Hart. I beat your old man half to death and put him in the old folks' home. And I'm going to beat you half to death if you got enough guts to get out here. This is my home, brother. You're stepping on my territory just because old man Hart lives up on the hill and's got 29 kids. That don't make him any more better than I am.
And he was unbelievable. Great talk, great walk, and great look. He had everything, had all the ingredients and highs in each category. He was a great talker, great worker, and I had a great look. He looked like he could rip somebody's arms off. He was so impressive. Another guy, and I'll say this just before we end, was Abdul the Butcher. People think of him years later when he got much heavier. But when he was in Calgary, oh my God, there's nobody that worked like Abdul the Butcher. He perfected his gimmick that he took to Japan in Calgary, but he was one of the most agile, coordinated, super athlete, just an incredible athlete. I got pictures at home, like in my programs and stuff from those days where he's dropping an elbow drop. He looks like he's about 10 feet in the air. And he was such a good worker and such a pro that people forget now. Now they just think him like, oh, he was just a juice freak gimmick guy that, that all he did was, get juice every night. And, he might have kind of turned into that maybe in his later years, but I knew him. I saw him even in Japan. He was such a performer and never gets the credit he deserves today because everyone that they don't see those old days. They don't remember what he was like.
He was the first wrestler I saw that legitimately scared me.
Yes,
because I saw him against Carlos Colon on TV one time, and I'm like, whoa! And he scared me up till I want to say I was like 21 when I finally figured it out. But he was awesome.
I would say that hits it right on the head for me. Like as a kid, that no one ever smarted me up to wrestling. No one ever told me what was going on, so I didn't really know. I was kind of guessing, But I know that whenever Archie the Stomper came around, or Abdullah, even just walked past me, I just about shit my pants. Like I was so, they were so real. I actually remember a story where Archie the Stomper talked about coming up to the Hart House and doing all this stuff to my dad and my mom. He was going to kick all the Hart kids all around the yard. And I remember it was like about an hour later, Archie the Stomper pulls up in the driveway, gets out of a yellow Corvette.
Oh, God.
He's walking up the front steps, and I'm like, I just saw the promo. Like, and my dad and him, I think, were supposedly feuding. And I just remember I was so scared. And then I remember telling my mom, Archie the Stomper's here, he's here. Like, and all of a sudden my mom goes down and answers the front door and gives him a big hug and hands him his check. And then he said something to my mom, and she gave him a hug, and then he left. And I remember it's like, what's going on here? Like, I remember it's like he was going to kill my dad. And anyway, so that's one of the things that kind of made me go, okay, so this is more something going on here.
Right.
But, it was those two guys, and Archie being just such a phenomenal worker. And it's like no one will talk about Archie the Stomper much anymore. And it's one of those things that's lost to history, but Archie the Stomper is one of the greatest workers of all time.
Well, there you have it. Joe, I hope that was all right for you. And
oh, yeah. Like, again, it honor and privilege to be talking to you, Bret. And thank you, Mike, by the way, for the surprise.
We'll get you out. We still got to get you out here for a dungeon show and get you to see wrestling done right for sure. But
absolutely. Nevertheless,
Bret, before we let you go here, I just want to say again, thanks for everything. Love you as a friend and appreciate all the nice conversations we get to have when microphones aren't on. But we got to have more of those too. It's been a great year, and I did want to touch on it quickly because I wasn't going to go, and then you were announced to be a part of the Raw in Calgary. And we were texting back and forth, and you told me then you were sick as a dog that day and everything else. But what a showing you had there in that promo segment with Sami Zayn and Gunther. And I think it was a shining moment of the Hitman in the Saddle Dome one more time. And I just wanted to get your thoughts from that night real quick before we say goodbye.
It was a special night. I kind of knew that it was long overdue for me to make an appearance. And it's good to make an appearance because so many guys are gone that don't make appearances anymore. Like, some of the wrestlers that are just dead, But anyway, so it's kind of like nice for fans that haven't seen me or heard of me in a little while, and they're in Calgary, and you're kind of thinking maybe it'd be nice if Bret Hart was on the show. And then I come out, and it was special. The reception was really special, it's not easy to step into those shoes when you haven't walked in them in a long time. And it's like,
I gotta say though, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, you're walking to the ring, like I said, you had mentioned that you weren't feeling all that great throughout the day, but things got a little better. There was a moment where you got to those ropes, you walked through, and I'll be damned if Bret the Hitman Hart in full glory just exploded. I saw it. You got through the ropes, and all of a sudden, how about it? And there you were.
You are a hero to everyone in the locker room, but how good does it feel to be back home on Monday Night Raw, right here in the Saddle Dome in Calgary, Alberta, Canada?
Well, this is the place to be, right?
Well, it just comes out. I really don't even know how good that went, but I don't know that I've ever watched it back. I think I've got it on my TV still, but you're right. I was really under the weather. Something, I don't know if it was something I ate or whatever, but I had just a very touchy stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to like that whole afternoon, I was not well. And then I felt better as I went to the ring, and then I felt fine. And then the whole thing kind of hit me again at the Hitman bar, as you might remember. I
remember seeing you afterwards.
Abruptly I think I stood up and said, I'm out of here. And I walked past everybody. It was like no autograph, which is rare for me.
Yeah.
I gotta get out of here right now before I throw up in your face. Anyway, and I did. I threw up all over the limousine that took me home.
Oh, no.
Really bad, and it was embarrassing. I'm glad I got out of there. I apologize to any of my fans that might have thought I was abrupt and not very friendly, but it was a kind of a jump up and get out of here before something really bad happens, and it was going to happen. And it's funny, the next day I never had any problems.
Yeah.
Like it was all gone. Whatever I ate or whatever, I threw up dry French fries. Brutal. It was just
well, on that note,
but yeah, forgive me if I didn't look as and my memory of that night isn't quite as, it's sort of special. I thought it was really nice, and I loved the reception, and it was nice to get back and let Calgary fans kind of see me again. And it's really strange. It really is strange how when I walked out to the ring, I was fine. Like nothing, everything was fine until I got back to the dressing room. And even then I felt it coming, but
yeah, but you know what, Bret, and I'd say this to your face, so in private, I'm going to say it here. That was the Hitman. That was the Hitman coming back. You gave us the Hitman, as I remembered since being that 12-year-old boy, dreaming of a moment like this, and I saw it. I saw that spark here. I'll send you actually a clip from my phone because I think I caught it better than the WWE cameras did. But that second you go through the ropes, man, kaboom, the explosion was there. So I'm glad you got that. I hope we get to see it again. But either way, it was a very special moment. So on behalf of all the Bret Hart fans everywhere, thank you for that as well.
All right, thank you.
Did you want to just maybe give a Merry Christmas or a Christmas wish to anybody listening right now?
So I wish all of them the best, a happy Merry Christmas and a fantastic 2025.
And how about for the Bret Hart fans out there?
We'll see you at WrestleMania, I think.
All right. I think fans might be taking that one way, but I think that means you'll be there one way or another. So
I will just be there. I won't be. we can address that now. I just be
Okay, Bret Hart, Santa's been watching you all year. You've been a good boy. You had an excellent match tonight. What is it you want most for Santa to bring you this year?
Well, I want you to bring for me most. I want you to bring peace and prosperity to everybody everywhere around the world. And for me personally, I want you to bring to me the biggest, the baddest, the meanest, and the toughest competitors in the entire World Wrestling Federation, just so I can prove to myself and to all the skeptics, everybody everywhere, that I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. I am the World Wrestling Federation champion, and I just want to prove it. And also, I want you to have a Merry Christmas, too.
Yes, and to you too, Bret Hart. A very Merry Christmas to all.
You're listening to the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2. Join us on Facebook at Team MOW McGuire on Wrestling and get in on the conversation. If you like McGuire on Wrestling, you need to subscribe to the free McGuire on Wrestling podcast feed. Not only do you get access to the show a day early, but you also get free bonus content every week. Share a laugh with Mitch and Dimitri on the alternate commentary table.
Oh, I'm Cody Rhodes. Look at me.
Now, if this was Damian Priest, he'd apologize. He probably would have apologized.
Follow along with the film career of one of wrestling's biggest stars with We've Seen a Movie.
Basically, I'm just watching John Cena play his wrestling character.
If John Cena was a raging alcoholic Atlantic City mooch before this.
Get all these shows, exclusive interviews, and more for free by subscribing to McGuire on Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to the McGuire on Wrestling Holiday Hullabaloo 2.
The Holiday Hullabaloo rolls on. If you missed what just happened, Bret the Hitman Hart shared some really funny stories talking about not only his days growing up in Stampede Wrestling, being terrified of guys like Archie the Stomper Goldie showing up at his house, and then what happened when Archie actually did show up at his house, but also some stories about the recent appearance he had on Monday Night Raw with Gunther and Sami Zayn, and talking about what happened there. But always a great time talking to Bret, and I'm glad you got to hear that, because it seems to be everybody always clips the bad stuff, right? And somebody's probably going to clip that Dynamite part of the interview that Joe asked him about Dynamite Kid, and that's fine. But if you guys are going to do that, share the stories, but share the good stories too, because that's what the Hullabaloo is all about. And now that it's happened 2 years in a row, Bret Hart being on the Holiday Hullabaloo has to be a tradition, as hopefully this guy will be as well. He's become one of the busiest people, both behind the scenes and in front of the camera, for All Elite Wrestling. He's one of the funniest people you could ever see or meet, or even just have any sort of encounter with. Ladies and gentlemen, last year he joined us for a snippet here, for a special conversation talking about all sorts of things, and also helping us surprise another familiar voice from the past. Please welcome the one and only R.J. City. Well, with no plan whatsoever, which is exactly how I love talking to this guy. It's been a minute or two, but welcome back
the one and only RJ City. Hello, sir.
When you don't plan, it just puts the burden on me. You could plan.
Well,
there's nothing stopping you from planning.
This is true.
You know, I think you went, I don't want to plan. Let me talk to RJ.
It's the holiday hullabaloo. It's supposed to be a casual conversation time where we catch up like old friends would.
Yeah, but we're not. We're not
intimating that we're friends, but we're not. I mean,
we're not.
No.
Anything that I've been up to is widely available online.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no catching up. I'm telling you, you didn't miss any.
No, really, I haven't. I've been keeping in tune. I've been keeping in line. In fact, one thing I saw recently, I actually have to bring up again, because the last time you and I had a conversation like this, was quite some time ago actually now, but I couldn't help but notice it was brought up in conversation on a recent Hey EW with the one Matt Cardona, and that is the fact that to this day we still don't have a Jazzwares Hey EW RJ City playset.
Yes.
And he brought it up as well. So I mean, I'm still taking credit for the original idea, besides you actually deserving the credit for the idea because it's your whole thing, but I still think this needs to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could understand why it wouldn't happen. You know?
Why?
I'm not the most thrilling. It would be the world's most boring action figure, which is what I pitched to Jazzwares, which is probably my downfall. Because they have the one with the stage, this guy has the jacket and the soft goods. I said, what if we make the least articulate action figure?
Yeah.
What if I have the papers stuck in my hand like Commissioner Slaughter?
Sergeant Slaughter, yeah, we talked about this.
And then what if it's just khaki pants, black shirt? There you go.
Yeah. Well, I did like Cardona's idea of having the actual sign having the light up, on and off feature.
Right, because it wasn't expensive enough to make an action figure.
Well,
Let's make the smallest accessory light up. It's a really good idea. Just real forward thinking of you.
Well, I've talked to Matt before. If there's one thing I've learned about that guy, and with all due respect in the world, dude knows how to make things more expensive.
That's for sure. He's an upseller. I will say, in the meantime, if any child out there wants a Hey EW playset, grab a small piece of paper and a Sharpie, and you're there.
Right.
You're
implying it's children that buy wrestling figures, though. That's not a thing anymore.
I know. We stopped that. I went to Walmart the other day, and I saw, but they're still in the toy section.
Yeah.
I saw Tito Santana, and I thought, what 8-year-old this holiday season would want to say Arriba?
Well, I don't know. He did have a big comeback, I guess, this past week, but that's at another place. But seriously, let's talk about you, man. You've been getting busier and busier and busier, and we're not here to dig deep into the whole behind the scenes thing, but
because you don't plan.
No, exactly.
We could have, but we're going to float.
And again,
on the surface.
This is it, lightly skimming in conversation that doesn't actually probe in any way whatsoever. We did that a lot last time. We actually got pretty deep as the conversation went on. But
your first topic is something we explicitly discussed last time. I would say it was over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's getting pretty close to that now.
But you were prepared last time. You said, let's do a Hey W on you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, this guy puts in the work. And now I don't think that at all.
No. And I'm not going to, because, again, it's the holiday hullabaloo. So it's, again, just something for, honestly, I'm just trying to keep the subscription up over the holidays here. We're really here just to kill time and get a few downloads.
Yeah. So, isn't that life?
Yeah. Really. Well, you tell me, man. I mean, if there's anybody who's more regular with content than RJ City, I don't know who it could be at this point, because you're everywhere. And one of the things I did love was the addition now of the meal and a match. That's like, what you do with Hey EW, only with like a budget and a co-host and things.
Yes. Yeah, it's a little more normal, but that is to say it's also not very normal at all. We've done 3 episodes. There's another one on the way. I guess they're going to release them monthly. They're on the TBS YouTube. I don't know why we're not on the main TV channel. Jason Biggs is on it, so clearly it can't be hard to get on. I don't know what the issue is here. But yeah, it's we filmed it in New York, and they built a set for it.
Yeah, it's a great set.
Bar set that we've called the Arm Bar.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's adorable. And we want to we want the show to do well so people can see this bar at some point, that we could set it up at a convention or something.
That would be great. That would be great. And then Matt Cardona could pitch making a miniaturized version of that for $300 each or something, you know?
That they would make. They would do that one. They would try to crowd fund it.
Yeah.
You know, like the Lego Muppet Theater. You're like, oh, I'm very excited. I'll support this.
Well, either way, it's still got to happen at some point. The AEW said, I'm throwing it out there. I think if we actually tried, and again, if I had any interest in putting any effort into anything right now, maybe that would be something we could talk about. But
well, the issue with action figures is also that they're very slow. The process is very slow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like something happens, then next week the action figure comes out. So the real question is, if they decided to make that action figure today, by the time it comes out, what state will my career be in?
Well, that's true, but we did have this conversation again 2 years ago, so there has been time. Yeah. There has been time.
There's been plenty of time, and they've chosen not to act on it. Yet they have a Tony Schiavone, yet they need an Excalibur.
Yeah, they have their whole table and everything. I mean, okay, why is there a package where I can buy a broom with an AEW package on it, but not AEW?
What market research is going on?
I don't know. Apparently not enough. Well, in all seriousness, man, I mean, we talked a lot last time we spoke about staying busy and taking care of opportunities and doing the best with what you can here. I mean, AEW had some great news with the business renewal. We've talked about it a lot on the shows over the years. As far as you go, this is kind of got to be great to celebrate in a way, but still it's like, hey, the machine keeps running. So have you had time to actually look back at your contributions over the past few years and say, wow, I helped build this?
No, first of all, they're not contributions. You know, I don't find them really like, oh, I'm not getting a plaque for anything. Do you know what I'm saying? No, it's a show. We have a show to do.
Yeah.
Wednesdays at 8. If it's Wednesday, if it's 8, we have a show to do. And that I never wanted to do. Like, this stuff is too stupid. Like, and I mean that in a very positive way. Yeah. It's too enjoyable to do. And I feel like the second you look back with any sort of pride or we did something incredible, it's gone.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
The fun stuff is doing the stuff. If you have to do it to get a reward, then you should probably do something else.
That's fair. That's fair. And that's why you have failed yet to actually accept any paycheck given to you throughout this entire time.
Well, I donate it.
Which is very noble. It's very noble.
Yeah.
But I mean, how busy are you these days? I mean, you were busy enough with the AEW stuff and what you were doing when we last spoke. I mean, you're doing some other stuff now. And again, I don't want to pry too deep into it, but what are your weeks like now? I mean, you just seem to be constantly on the go with all these new shows.
I don't. There was a time when I was coming in once a month. And we were doing the early days of Hey, and you can tell by my clothes and the set that we would be shooting 4 or 5 in a row. And then I would duck out again. And then maybe come back when I was doing the car things for pay-per-views, which was a different kind of crazy, too.
Right.
Now it's every single week. I cannot tell you the last Dynamite I've missed. I cannot tell you the last Collision I've missed. It's that stuff, and I'm always doing the pre-shows with Renee, and then we have 0 Hour and Meal and a Match, which is a whole hullabaloo. And then we're working on other stuff. Hey, it's in, I don't know when this is airing, but this week will be the 125th episode of Hey.
That's crazy.
Which is miraculous to consider that people would tolerate me for that long.
I don't know. I still say, and this is obviously a little biased, but I think that it's some of the most entertaining content that I can consistently get out of anything associated to AEW. And that's not a knock on anything else, but
that's a good thing.
Exactly.
I'm part of AEW. It's fine.
That's
You're
what I mean.
Complimenting the program.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do here. But you know how it is, though. You say something nice about everybody. Oh, you're just an AEW mark. You're this mark. You're that. It's like, can you not just like things for the sake of liking them, right?
People like to argue, and I also we have to stop blaming the internet. Because like in the 50s, you could walk into a bar and 2 dumb men would be arguing in a bar about nothing. This is just where we are now, okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not ideal. We could all be better. We could all be philosophers and think about life, but we're afraid of our own death. So we have to engulf ourselves in things like this.
Exactly. This gives me purpose right now, RJ. Thank you for bringing some meaning to my...
Yes, next time someone's arguing about AEW on Twitter, feel free to respond. Are you afraid of your own death?
Oh, my God. And then the police are called. It's great.
Yes.
Well, you know what, man? In all seriousness, again, I keep saying that, but I don't know how else to say this to you, because I truly do appreciate the conversations you and I have had, either like this or online through the years here, because I really do feel that you are one of the positive contributing forces out there to make sure that guys like me get entertained by what we see on our wrestling shows every week here. And, you know, every time...
I'm selfish, though. I feel bad. I feel bad when you say that, because I enjoy doing it so much.
Yeah. And that's okay.
I do it for me, and then the fact that you enjoy it is puts me over the top.
Yeah, and that's that's totally fine though. I think that is, you know, I gotta stop saying in all seriousness, but joking aside, I think that should be your badge of pride. You know, that's why I do this show. I mean, we're not making money off this thing. We're doing it because we love talking about wrestling. We love talking about how it makes us feel, the good and the bad, and bringing people together again in a common interest, which is really what any fandom really is. I mean, you've been to enough things through the years and conventions, I'm sure, and entertainment expos and whatnot. And I mean, your whole career with the acting and wrestling is really its own sake to say, you know what, do what you'd enjoy. And if people will follow you for it, then that is, like you said, that is the bonus. So
yeah, it's a real legacy of, oh, you guys liked that?
Yeah.
I was just seeing what I could get away with, but thank you.
Yeah, no, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. And I do want to bring in somebody here. We're doing this thing this year for the Holiday Hullabaloo, where some of our other hosts are being surprised by personalities like yourself. Right. So I'm going to go ahead and share the invite to our next person. You know who it is. He doesn't know that you're here, though.
Right. Okay.
So I'm going to send him the link right now. Ladies and gentlemen, making his return to McGuire on Wrestling for us for the Holiday Hullabaloo, please welcome back the one and only, the great Dan the Mouth Lavransky.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. Nice to chat with you. We haven't had a chance to chat for a while, and the end of the year is always a good time to get together with your friends and shoot the shit and see what comes out.
Yeah, remember, we're on the radio too now, Dan, so we can't use the bad words, but that's okay.
We can do it again if you want.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We're going. We're live, pal. We're live. But Dan, I did want to tell you that I am looking forward to talking to just you on the show, but we're doing a thing this year where we're also bringing in some other friends. So other friend, feel free to join the conversation. I told him you're going to be here, Dan. RJ City's here.
RJ, how are you, man?
I was so excited, and then you swore, and I got so disappointed in you.
I know. I should know. Like the greats, like Paul Lynde, he would never resort to that, right? No. You're right. You're totally right, RJ. I kind of messed that up. Yeah.
The Imus era is over. You know what I'm saying, Dan?
Okay, got it.
Well, I thought this would be a fitting match here because you guys are both basically in the similar part of the world there, and you guys also have a history together. I know RJ used to listen to the old shows, and Mouth was a big part of that, obviously. And Mouth, I mean, you're just a bounty of useful and sometimes questionable references. So I thought, if anything, I could probably just sit back and let you two just riff on random references from wrestling and theater and music and God knows what.
That's one of the things that always blew me away about RJ was his kind of whole approach to everything and his mindset. I mean, he'd be talking to me about like Paul Lynde and Charles Nelson Riley and be quoting all these really obscure references and stuff from when I was a little kid and I would watch TV. And I always just thought it was great that he mixed all that stuff into his character and kind of came up with what we see before us today, ladies and gentlemen. So it's great. And honestly, the spirit of Paul Lynde and Charles Nelson Riley, it should be kept alive.
Yes. Yeah. And I hope I don't die in the same way. But thank you, Dan. I think that's very sweet of you. And you are a pioneer. That made me go, oh, you can be an adult and still do all of this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can have as much fun as you can cram into a lifetime. You have to go for it. You have to go for it. And that's what I love, especially with your bit there with AEW and those segments. They're always so entertaining, and you always come up with the best ways to irk your guests in the most ways possible, which is always a great approach. And it works really well for you.
Thank you. Now, as a record collector yourself, as a vinyl connoisseur, I have a question for you. I have a theory. I want you to confirm it for me.
Okay.
If you go to a secondhand store and you see a Lawrence Welk album and you buy that Lawrence Welk album, another Lawrence Welk album will immediately appear in its place.
Yes. There are several artists of that variety. Mitch Miller is another one like that. Herb Alpert is another one like that. I mean, there's tons of them where you just think, how many of these records got made? And you got to remember too, guys like Lawrence Welk back at that time period, they're cranking records out like every 3 months. They're cranking them out like mad.
Well, was the cover licensing thing different? Because they were just any song that they would just cover.
Oh yeah, I think it totally was a lot different back then. It was liked back then because mostly by the songwriters because they're going to get the royalties from it. But it was another way to get your song out there. And plus back then, like I don't think they really do this in pop music now. Back then, if something was a hit, people would just constantly be glomming onto it and doing another version and another version and another version. I don't know if you know, but there's a gazillion versions of Jumpin' Jack Flash out there. And that was just the way it was. No one does that. No one's jumping on and doing Taylor Swift covers, now or something like that. So it was a whole kind of different thing.
I believe that's known as the wagon wheel effect now in today's music, is that everybody's got to put out a version of Wagon Wheel at some point.
It could be.
I was always like, Jerry Vale does the Beatles, and I don't know if I needed this, but they would also do it on the variety shows too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite records. I don't know if you know it, RJ, and I was just listening to it the other day. There was this guy named Lester Lennon, and he did a 40 Beatles hits album, and he turned it all into medleys. It's basically the roots of Stars on 45, except it's in like it's in the mid 60s, and it's the most amazing record. Turns the whole Beatles career up to Sgt. Pepper into one giant medley. And you just don't see stuff like that anymore.
I will say my favorite Beatles medley is Bobby Darin does one.
Okay.
I think he did Live from the Desert Inn. It's a fan. When he got all folky and started calling himself Bob Darin?
Yes, that's the period of his career that I like. I like the later folky stuff.
So good. So fantastic.
Yeah.
The worst one is on, I believe, Sammy Davis Jr.'s show called Sammy and Company.
Okay.
He does a Beatles medley. I have to send it to you. It's just like every way to not do a Beatles song.
Yeah. It was they were just so huge. I mean, that's the interesting thing now is that we're seeing with Taylor Swift. It's someone that's almost on that same scale of what the Beatles are. It's too bad those variety shows aren't around anymore because we would be getting Taylor Swift medleys out the wazoo right now.
Yes, we would be getting Toady Field singing "Shake It Off."
I think that the image came to me right away. I think that's a great idea, right?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
And for those that are still listening now, yes, we've just let RJ City and Dan Lavransky just have their own way with their conversation here. But, guys, while I got you both here, I wanted to talk about wrestling albums and music you might remember from that. Because, Dan, again, one of my favorite times of my life was sitting in your backyard and going through all those old wrestling albums you have. We've talked on end about Beauregard and guys like that. But, I mean, maybe either one of you know this. I can't think of many or any off the top of my head, perhaps, but any perhaps holiday-themed wrestling music out there at all?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's what I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did find some amazing WWE Christmas greetings from like 1983. online where Fred Blassie and the Iron Sheik are all wishing you a happy Christmas, and Blassie's like, I just want more diamonds and money. That's what I want for Christmas. But there's one with Captain Lou Albano in there too. But yeah, that's a tough one. There's not many really Christmas oriented ones. Yeah, I'd be hard pressed on that one. Unless although in Japan, I mean, the amount of records about wrestling that have come out in Japan, I would not be surprised that I'll bet you there's a Destroyer Christmas record from Japan. I'll bet you there's stuff from Japan. There has to be, especially with the Destroyer, since he became like a TV personality past being a wrestler, and quite a few records that he did came out in Japan that never came out here.
Yeah, I'm stumped.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've done it.
That's a tough one. It really is. I have the picture of Captain Lou Albano in a Santa suit, but not singing a song.
Maybe like whatever Santa Claus's theme music was. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
On that note, though, guys, because again, you're both such wealths of pop culture knowledge and everything else, and RJ, we were just talking about how busy your schedule has been and how crazy life has been for you since things have really ramped up with your AEW schedule. What are the holidays like for you, and what do you like to do over Christmas?
Nothing. I don't like to do anything at all. I'm traveling so much that I don't feel like I can take a vacation, because that would involve going somewhere,
right? And
I'm already going places, so why would I want to go? And then I don't want to stay. I don't want to staycation. I put on movies. Here's a Christmas movie recommendation I'll make for you, Dan. It's called Carol for Another Christmas.
Okay.
It was a United Nations like propaganda film, like an anti-war film, but it was written by Rod Serling.
Oh,
yes,
interesting. Okay,
it has Ben Gazzara.
Oh, neat.
Steve
Is he running?
Lawrence.
Is he running? Is Ben Gazzara running?
There is some.
There's a joke no one will get. RJ, is Ben Gazzara running?
He is. I will say there is some jogging in there.
Okay.
Ben Gazzara, Steve Lawrence, no Edie. They cut Edie from this, and Peter Sellers.
Wow. And what are we talking? Is this a 60s movie?
Yes, pre-Twilight Zone. So I guess early 60s.
Pre-Twilight Zone. That might even be late 50s.
Yeah. It might be.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's it called again?
Carol for Another Christmas.
Okay. Well, here's my Christmas movie pick for you from Mexico. You might know it. It's the infamous Santa Claus movie from Mexico. It's also known as Santa Claus versus the Devil, where basically Santa Claus is attacked by the devil. He sends his demons to Earth to make all the little children be bad so they won't get gifts from Santa. And it starts off with Santa doing this amazing song on a giant keyboard about all the different races in the world. And it's like pretty well every one of them is an insane stereotype. It's an amazing flick. It was made in 1960 in Mexico.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. See, and RJ, you were on me before for not planning this segment. Do you see now why I just kind of let her buck?
We're doing all the heavy lifting here. We're providing very, very important information to the demo that is probably tuned out by now.
That's fine.
We're doing all the heavy literal. No, not literal. We're doing all the heavy figurative bumps for this guy, right?
No, if you're holding me up, it's heavy lifting. So I appreciate it, gentlemen. But overall, I just want to wish you both all the best this holiday season. Mouth, always great to talk to you, man. We got to do it more. And RJ, same thing. I really do appreciate you. I appreciate your creative energy. I appreciate as a fan, but also as a guy who wants to help other people. In fact, I met your younger you through a time machine recently in London Lightning. He was out west here. And,
yes,
your young doppelganger, if you would.
Yes,
and
I've sent him messages to warn him to not make the same mistakes I have.
So everybody Google London Lightning, you'll see what we're talking about as well. But RJ, Mouth, I want to thank you both for being part of the Holiday Hullabaloo, and anything you'd like to say to the people out there before you go.
Just have a great break, whatever you do, and RJ, keep up the great work, man. Always love seeing you on the screen there.
Thank you, Dan. I'm sure I will run into you at somewhere soon, or not soon, years from now. We'll be at a garage sale.
But hey, I look forward to it.
We'll be at an estate sale. We'll be at Lubacoy's estate sale.
Going
Yes.
through the records. Oh, look at all the Lawrence Welk this guy had. Holy cow.
And to anyone who's listened to the entirety of this conversation, I want you to know that there are so many other better ways to spend your time.
There really are. And we'll have more of those coming up for you here on the Holiday Hullabaloo. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We are just getting started. If you are downloading the podcast version of this show, you may have seen the artwork that shows who else is going to be a part of the Holiday Hullabaloo too. And if you're listening on the radio, do us a favor, stop by McGuireShow.com. Check it out. You can join the Team MOW, McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page, and always be a part of the show that way as well. We're going to shut her down for this week, but next week, part 2 of the Holiday Hullabaloo 2 will be here. Until then, thanks for listening and letting me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. Bye. See ya.